Have any challenges and what opportunities we have out there, if any. So Justice Jallo, we are inviting you to deliver your statement. Thank you.
Much, Omar, Secretary to the CRC, and good morning, members of the media present here. Good morning, Madam Vice Chair, and good morning, fellow commissioners. Good morning, staff of the CRC. I am pleased to once again, on behalf of the Constitutional Review Commission, to welcome and engage with you, our media partners in the constitutional review process, to yet another dialogue where I update you, and through you, the general Gambian public, on the activities the CRC has been embarked upon since the last time we got together in a similar setting. Since the inception of our work at the CRC, press conferences have become a regular engagement where we interface with you directly. This has been possible largely on the basis of the partnership and cordial relationship the CRC has been able to forge with individual journalists and media houses covering the constitutional review process. We at the CRC certainly recognize that we have a shared journey, not only with the Gambian people and other stakeholders, but also specifically with members of the media, whose continued support continues to be an invaluable source of strength for us. A lot has been going on in the Commission, and work continues to be both exciting and challenging. We have, through our consultative process, received and learned a lot from our citizens and other stakeholders who accepted our invitation from early on to engage with the CRC to collectively help in developing a new constitution for the Gambia. This engagement has taken the form of direct face-to-face public consultations with Gambians both at home and abroad, dialogue with political parties and key central and local government institutions, dialogue with civil society, written contributions in response to the CRC issues document, conduct of household surveys where a total of 9,263 eligible respondents from the age of 18 years upwards were sampled in different enumeration areas throughout the country. Conduct of online surveys through questionnaires on key constitutional reform issues, one-on-one dialogue with our traditional chiefs to learn more about the historical perspective of chieftaincy in the Gambia, and other bilateral discussions with development partners. We have received wonderful proposals that are guiding us in our effort to design and build a new constitution for the Gambia. We have also received opinions that express frustrations and a desire to make things better for our country. Some of the views and opinions we have received will not necessarily find their way into the new draft constitution, but will certainly assist in shaping the new draft constitution and the report that we have a mandate to prepare. On the other hand, we recognize and appreciate that building a constitution can be a really daunting task, and the one we are embarked upon is not an exception. We have the important challenge of piecing together the opinions we have received over the last 8 months plus, analyze them and determine which ones represent the aspirations of the Gambian people and thus can be properly built into the new draft constitution. Within this scope also is the need to work on and establish what constitutional issues represent international best practice. In addition, we have the responsibility of determining our country's international obligations in relation to treaties the Gambia is a party to and how these relate to or affect the constitution building process. Not the least irrelevant is the importance of giving weight to the norms and values of our people and society. I'm sure you all recognize the challenges we are faced with, but we continue to be determined to carry on with our assignment to a successful conclusion. Overall, from our assessment of the opinions and aspirations expressed by Gambians and other stakeholders during the constitutional review process, the following key issues stand out. Firstly, the democratic governance of the Gambia must be given priority, and that is to say, there is the need to respect the rule of law and fundamental rights and freedoms. Secondly, governance institutions must be strengthened to uphold the values and the letter and spirit of the Constitution. That is to say, the need to guard against abuse and the arrogation of unchecked exercise of power. Thirdly, proper management of public finances and ensuring effective accountability in government. That is to say, tackling corrupt behavior and restoring public confidence in government as an institution. Fourthly, a development process whereby local government serves as a meaningful engine for national development. That is to say, the need to empower local government authorities to ensure development from bottom up. Fifthly, the importance of ensuring adequate checks and balances between the key government institutions of the executive, legislature, and the judiciary, with each being independent, but providing a supportive role to each other as a mechanism for enhancing the democratic governance of the Gambia. And lastly, the need to adequately protect our natural environment, that is fisheries resources, forests, what is left of it, and others, as well as our water and other natural resources, including the equitable sharing of those resources, and the equitable use and distribution of land in such a responsible manner that the future generations of Gambians can equally benefit from. I now address some specific matters relating to the CRC's work since we last met, and as we continue to carry out our assignment of reviewing the current constitution and commence the drafting process to develop a new constitution for the Gambia and the accompanying report, starting with the external consultations. The Commission has concluded its external public consultations with Gambians in the diaspora. This has brought us essentially to the end of the CRC's process of canvassing and receiving opinions from the public with regard to constitutional reforms. In Africa, the CRC meetings were held in Senegal and Mauritania. In the Middle East, the meetings was held in Saudi Arabia. These meetings were undertaken in late April and early May 2019. In Europe, the CRC engaged Gambians in the United Kingdom, Germany, Sweden, France, and Spain on initiative through social media and other platforms to encourage Gambians in the diaspora to attend and contribute their quota to the review of the current constitution, had expressed delight at being afforded the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be a part of developing the constitution of their own country. While we were not able to visit other key jurisdictions, we had witnessed where Gambians had traveled across states in the United States to attend the public consultations nearest to them. Although we could not visit Canada, which has a large Gambian community, our compatriots in that country dispatched a representative in the name of Bintu Barrow, currently Gambia's Consul General designate in Toronto, to attend the public consultations we had in New York on their behalf. All in all, we have been satisfied with the level of reception and participation of diaspora Gambians in all the regions we visit. I should add that the success of the CRC's external consultations has largely been due to the commitment and leadership of the various Gambian associations in the countries we visited. They went beyond the norm to ensure that Gambians in their jurisdictions were properly notified and made sterling arrangements, working with the CRC's team of logisticians for comfortable venues for the public consultations. In all these endeavors, our ambassadors, High Commissioners, Charge d'Affaires, and Consul General, through the leadership of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, effectively led the arrangements for the public consultations in the various jurisdictions. They attended and stayed with us throughout our consultations, and indeed, our ambassador in the United States was able to attend every meeting we've had in the 6 states we visited. Our ambassador at the United Nations also equally participated in the consultations held in New York City. We thank all of them, including the individuals who took it upon themselves to ensure our comfort during our engagement with the Gambian diaspora. With respect to the submissions to the CRC issues document, as part of efforts to seek the opinions of all Gambians, both at home and abroad, on the drafting of the new constitution, the CRC considered it necessary to extend the deadline for the submission of position papers to the 15th of July 2019. The decision was born out of the need to give ample time to the public and stakeholders to contribute to participate in and share their views on the shaping of the new constitution. Many have seized the opportunity, and to them I say, on behalf of my fellow commissioners and the entire CRC staff, thank you. You have done well for your country. On Monday, 22nd July 2019, an in-house capacity building exercise was conducted for all CRC staff by the CRC Statistics Unit on how to generate various types of graphs and charts using the Microsoft Excel application. Most CRC staff are involved in some form of report writing, and there are sections of some of the reports which would require quantitative and qualitative analysis. Since its inception, the CRC has encouraged the culture of knowledge transfer through such internal capacity building training. With respect to data entry of material that we have received, the data entry for the CRC household survey is ongoing and is expected to be completed shortly. CRC statisticians are pursuing a rigorous data verification process through the use of double data entry system so as to ensure clean and accurate data sets. The results will be fed into the CRC's decision-making process. In terms of records management, the CRC engaged the National Records Service for assistance in the development of a standards records management system. The National Records Service completed their work timely and were able to train identified CRC staff on how to manage the newly created CRC Records Management Unit. The CRC is also in the process of implementing all other recommendations of the National Records Service to ensure an efficient and effective records management system. The constitutional review process is a historic exercise. Thus, there is a sacrosanct need to ensure that the records are effectively kept and maintained for future reference, in addition to the use they are being put to during the course of our assignment in drafting a new constitution and preparing an accompanying report. Moving on to the technical committees. The CRC Act empowers it under Section 11 to establish technical committees, with each technical committee being chaired by a commissioner to facilitate and assist with the work of the CRC. In line with that provision, 5 technical committees have been established, 3 of which were inaugurated earlier in April and May of this year. The established technical committees that started work about 3 months ago and are winding up are the Public Finance Management Committee chaired by Commissioner Fatoumata Jallow and assisted by Commissioner Salimata Toure. Land, Environment and Natural Resources chaired by Commissioner Lamin Kamara and assisted by Commissioner Dr. Melville George. Media, Public Education and Communication chaired by Commissioner Ami Diouf Cole and assisted by Commissioner Yakuba Diba. On Monday, 5th August 2019, that's 2 days ago, the remaining 2 technical committees, namely the Technical Committee of Experts on Constitutional Law, chaired by Hawa Kuru Sise Sabali, Vice Chair of the CRC, and the Technical Committee on Constitution Drafting and Report Writing, chaired by Commissioner Janet Ramatulai Salanjai, were launched, and members took their oath of office for work to commence in earnest. The role of the technical committees is to assist the Commission to identify constitutional-related issues from an expert's perspective and to make recommendations on what specific matters referred to them by the Commission to capture in the new Constitution and how key oversight institutions can be strengthened to promote good governance in the Gambia. In that context, the CRC will refer specific matters to the technical committees to review, research, and provide recommendations on. This process, in addition to the public consultations, both oral and written, is designed to ensure that the CRC has the benefit of the full range of opinions and expertise in making objective assessments on matters that should be incorporated into the new Constitution. The CRC will ultimately determine the drafting instructions to be relied upon by the Technical Committee on Constitution Drafting and Report Writing in drafting the new Constitution, and the accompanying report for the consideration and the approval of the full Commission. It should be noted that once the draft new Constitution is ready, it will be made available to the public for comment. The process of soliciting comments and feedback on the draft new Constitution from the public will also entail local public consultations, but on a much more reduced scale. This will be followed by the finalization of the draft Constitution and a report, which will include the processes adopted by the Commission in developing the new Constitution and the rationale for the provisions enshrined in the Constitution. At the tail end of all of that exercise, both the draft new Constitution and the report will be submitted to His Excellency, the President of the Republic. In conclusion, let me reiterate once again that all opinions and other representations that the Commission received are considered in accordance with the guiding principles enshrined in the CRC Act of 2017. The constitutional review process continues to be guided by the principles of participation, inclusiveness, transparency, and national ownership, the end product of which will be a sound constitution which reflects the collective values, beliefs, and aspirations of Gambians. On behalf of my fellow commissioners and on my own behalf, I take the opportunity once again to thank Gambians and all other stakeholders who saw value in engaging and indeed did engage with the CRC on the development of a new constitution for the Gambia, for their participation and active engagement. It is fair to state that had we embarked on drafting a new constitution for the Gambia without the input of Gambians and other stakeholders, we most certainly would not have benefited from the range of excellent opinions and guidance we have been able to receive thus far. We are reinforced in our belief that there is always value in consulting. Our public consultations process has seen a diversity of opinion, but more gratifying is the respect everyone has accorded to each other's opinion, even where they disagreed. This is phenomenal. And we at the CRC are convinced that together as a people and as a country, recognizing that the writing of a constitution is not only about the present, but also about the future generations of Gambians. Not about me, but about us collectively. And not about personal interests, but about the interests of all Gambians and our country. We can develop a new constitution that we can legitimately take ownership of. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, thank you sincerely for your time and attention.
I am Keba Ansumani. I'm from Chronicle News. I would like to ask the Honorable Chairman to tell us how much so far has been spent as far as the external consultations are concerned. He did mention that the Commission has visited two countries in Africa, that is Senegal and Mauritania, and also embarked on similar visits and consultations in Europe and America. It has triggered a lot of questions, especially from Gambians outside and others who are using the social media, that a lot of money has been spent in these consultations. So I would like to know how much so far has been spent and what are the justifications for spending such amounts of taxpayers' money when there are other avenues that can be exploited. Thank you very much.
Question. I should just make the point that we have also seen a lot of sentiments being expressed with respect to external consultations. And I've said before that a constitutional review process, in the manner we have designed and are implementing it, cannot be expected to be cheap. The question ultimately for us and for all of us as citizens is whether we are getting value for money spent in this exercise. So it will be rather unfortunate if we place too much emphasis on money and overlook the value we're getting out of it. I just thought I need to make that very clear. We've seen obviously pundits on social media giving their own figures, as to how much of public funds are being spent, and some are saying how much of public funds are being wasted. And I would want to say that nothing we've done thus far can legitimately be described as a waste of public funds, especially where we are consulting with our own citizens, both at home and abroad. The alternative to this would have been to sit here in the CRC Secretariat and write the new constitution, and just to have the constitution end up being rejected by the people because they haven't been consulted. So I think we must not overlook the importance and value of consulting our citizens, whether at home or abroad. Having said that, with respect to your specific question, Keba, you will recall that when we had this similar press conference the last time, similar questions were being asked as to whether there are no other better alternatives we could have utilized to engage the Gambian diaspora. My challenge to you is talk to the Gambians in the diaspora, those who have come out and met with us, and ask them the same question. I'm sure you will receive the answer that you didn't expect. They felt quite rightly, in my view, that they deserve to be consulted in the same manner as Gambians within the country were consulted. And they also made the point very clearly, had it been done online, the number of participation we have seen would never have occurred. So he provided a platform. We must not undervalue the direct interface, the value of the direct interface. That is very critical and it is important. So having said that, just to answer your question now directly, the total amount that was, and we will provide these details later on, the total amount that was budgeted for the external consultations was $18.9 million. And I want to make sure you get that right.
Sorry, can you say again?
$18.9 million. All right? The total amount spent, that was what was budgeted for. The total amount that has been spent on the external consultation is $14.6 million. That's over a savings of $4 million. And we really cut a lot of corners, and I would particularly want to thank the commissioners and the other staff who agreed and did not complain one bit to take the most inconvenient travel mechanisms to get this done. We've seen where, I've personally seen where commissioners, the tallest ones amongst us, have had to pay extra money just to secure the correct seats on the plane. And I think this is all commendable. They haven't complained, and it's all through the recognition that we are not here to, arrogate money to ourselves or to do anything. We are embarked on a national exercise, and that needs to be done prudently and wisely, and I believe that is what we have been able to do. But if you compare this is the external consultations. We've had pundits talk about figures much higher. If you look at the internal consultation, that was a little over $13 million. So you are talking of the difference of about just $1 million between between the internal consultations and the external consultations. So you can draw your own conclusions as to whether it was really worth the exercise. And I can tell you, when you make that analysis yourselves, do it in a way that will include opinions from Gambians in the diaspora that have participated and I'm emphasizing that have participated, because we've seen a lot of criticism, and nothing wrong with criticism, but a lot of criticism of the external consultation process from persons who have to date not contributed a single word to the CRC process. Nothing at all. So why should we stop other Gambians from benefiting from the relevant platforms to engage with us and contribute ideas to the constitutional review process? So I think that's enough said on Keba's question.
Thank you, Chair. The next question, please.
Thank you very much. We have a mandate under the CRC Acts to write and deliver a new constitution and a report within a period of 18 months. Having commenced our work on the 4th of June 2018, by the 4th of December 2019, we should be able to deliver the new constitution. What happens thereafter is outside of our mandate. Our mandate is to write a new constitution and a report to hand over to the executive, and then the relevant processes will take their logical course. How that affects what happens in 2021 is anybody's guess, but I think for us as the CRC, we are constrained by the law that has established us and given us the mandate that we are currently embarked upon.
Yeah.
Well, you made it clear that this process is not about us. You are somehow inventing our own future. So can Gambia expect this time that we'll have a constitution that will resist the test of time? Second question is with regard to ecology. You know the damage that's going on, attacks on environment. And this is becoming more and more invisible. People are not talking about it. So will this new constitution take into consideration this attack on environment, our natural resources, and let out sanction, criminalize any act that will damage our environment?
All right, thank you very much for those two very important questions. The first one, whether we will come up with a constitution that will stand the test of time, that is the aim. That is the aim we are embarked upon. It is one of the primary, or if not the primary function that we are performing as the CRC, which is why we thought it necessary from day one to consult with Gambians, both at home and abroad, in order to achieve that level of legitimacy that is desirable in any constitutional setting, particularly with respect to the instrument itself. And it is also a requirement under the CRC Act that we consult with Gambians both at home and abroad. So all of that has been done. But ultimately, what we have decided we would do, and I said this earlier, is that once we have the draft constitution, after having consulted with Gambians, is to publish that. So everybody sees what is in the draft constitution. And we'll invite people to obviously contribute and make comments on that before we embark on finalizing that one. So we are hoping that through the various processes we have adopted and continue to adopt, the draft constitution, when it is ready finally, will find that level of acceptability amongst the Gambian population. And that is what will ultimately determine whether it stands the test of time or not. So I think that is important. So it's a collective endeavor on behalf of everyone. We are just the instruments. We are just the instrument by which this new constitution is going to be developed. But ultimately, like I said before, national ownership is important, and that national ownership has to reside with the people, and we need to take it forward. On your second question, you will recall in my statement I mentioned the fact that one of the technical committees we've established is on land, natural resources, and the environment. What you've said here is actually what practically every Gambian has been telling us. Gambians have been lamenting the destruction of the environment. The environment continues to be depleted, and we ourselves have seen that, having gone through around the country. And in some circumstances, they are truly sad. And I don't want to be personal about this, but if you look at the way the environment has been depleted in so many different ways, it really, really makes you wonder what the future of this country is going to look like. We are all concerned about it. So, which is why, because of the emphasis that people have placed on this, we've established these technical committees, this technical committee, which is looking at various dimensions. And the technical committee itself had even undertaken a countrywide consultation process on environment alone, natural resources and land. Because these are hot topics, they are issues that are affecting us. Some might even say the reason we still don't have the regular rains at this time is because we've destroyed all our forests. That's a different issue, it's a scientific issue, not my issue. But the important thing, and that the people of this country have narrated to us and continue to lament about, is the fact that we need measures that will protect our natural environment. That is important. We need measures that will ensure the sound and equitable management and distribution of our natural resources. You know, these are things people see every day, they live with it, and they lament about it. So I think we are doing the best we can. We are not saying that the answer, the complete answer, lies in the Constitution. As you may be aware, the Constitution is merely a legal framework. It cannot have all the details. We have quite a number of laws on environment, forestry, and so on. We have to acknowledge the fact that part of the problem is in the enforcement of the laws. It's not we can write the best constitution, write the best laws we can. If the enforcement mechanism is weak, there is very little we can do. So I think it's important that especially you members of the media continue to also lament about environmental degradation in the country. We've had a case, I believe, when we were in the US. One of the participants indicated how his son, a little son, I think about 10 years old, said to him, "We see all of these things going on last time we were in the Gambia, and there are houses being built everywhere, fences all over the place. Where are we going to get our land when we grow up?" This is from a young child making that statement. So it speaks to the fact that the management of our resources, our land resources, really is something that we need to take much more seriously than we probably are doing at the moment.
Any other questions? You give chance to others. Any question?
Okay. Thank you very much. Once again, Chair, you did mention of the establishment of 2 new committees that will be headed, or that is being headed by Madam Vice Chair, and I cannot remember the other. However, I would like to know what is the mandate of these technical committees in general. How many months they are to serve, and if so, will these 2 latest committees be able to meet the deadline? Hence, by December 1st, we are expecting a new constitution. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, we have, as I said before, 5 technical committees. They each have a mandate. They each have, that is, terms of reference. And the terms of reference are very clear in terms of what is required of them. The earlier technical committees on public finance management, the one on land, environment, and natural resources, and the other on media, education, and publication. Those 3 will finish their assignment at the end of this month. They've done quite a lot of work. So their mandate terminates at the end of this month. And the other 2 committees are the ones that come in after the work of these technical committees. So we've been very deliberate in terms of how we have been institutionalizing these technical committees. So the technical committee that is headed by our vice chair and by Commissioner Salanjai are the ones really that ultimately will be with us until we finish this exercise, because they will be looking at the legal issues emanating from all the technical committees and all the other issues in order to deal with areas that need further research, require analysis, and to interface with the Commission as they continue to do that work, to ensure that ultimately we get this whole exercise right and end up with a constitution that is all-embracive of relevant opinions that constitute constitutional law proper, and ultimately to ensure that we have achieved the mandate that we have been tasked under the CRC Act. So yes, if all of it is fine so far. I think we are a little off target, but we are. Madam Vice Chair has made it very clear to me that we need to work on a daily basis, and it was gratifying to hear her say that. And we are actually meeting practically on a daily basis to make sure that we achieve, we recoup lost time. So we are still confident that that we can achieve our target. And I just want to say this, to be very clear about it. None of the commissioners, and we've had this discussion several times, none of the commissioners wants an extension. We want to do this job and finish with it. It's a very difficult exercise, a very time-consuming, and we have other jobs as well. So it's important that we concentrate on this as we are doing now to ensure that we complete the process within time and deliver it as the law requires of us.
Okay, I think
there is somebody.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I work for the Standard newspaper. On some of the most discussed issues during your consultation with Gambians, both home and abroad, you talked about good governance and the issue of the ecosystem, and of course, Gambia's international obligations. But what are other things that of course stand out during these meetings from Gambians that they have discussed with the Commission are really interesting when they want it to be entrenched in the new constitution? And the other thing is you have not talked much about constraint of the Commission, and this is of course quite reassuring for Gambians who are looking forward to a new constitution. But again, it's important that we know whether the Commission is not faced with any challenges, especially when it comes to financial challenges, because it's important that the Commission is fully equipped, because this document, of course, is one of the most important documents that Gambians are looking forward to, especially before the next presidential election.
Thank you very much, Omar. On your first question, what I gave you, the 6 points I gave you, are effectively a summary of all the details, because if I want to go into the details, we'll never leave this hall today. But in essence, it has to do with governance, and governance, will relate to issues concerning elections, the conduct of elections, election of the president, election of members of our legislature, and so on and so forth. And it also has to do with the whole issue of transparency, accountability, ensuring that we have the proper institutions and the proper systems and procedures governing how our budget is dealt with, how our monies are being spent, how our monies are being accounted for and audited. All of those issues have actually been canvassed by Gambia, both here and abroad. And I can tell you, the opinions canvassed are not very dissimilar insofar as the details are concerned. But the long and short story, really, Omar, on this is that every issue that is contained in our issues document that we publish and a copy is on our website has been discussed. And Gambians have been raising opinion, or have been expressing opinions on those matters. In terms of the constraints of the CRC, right now I can assure you we don't have any financial constraints, and the government continues to be very supportive in our endeavor, and the financial requirements of the Commission are being provided, so we do not have any thing in relation to that. I can't think of any particular constraint unless the commissioners can think of one outside of the work that we are doing and finding time to do things and trying to meet deadlines and so on, which are a natural phenomena of any exercise like the one we are embarked upon. But all in all, we are quite satisfied with the level of cooperation and with the level of assistance that we are receiving from the government.
Maybe managing the expectations of Gambians.
Well, Gambians have a right to expect the world. I mean, I think every Gambian deserves that, and they also deserve to expect the best out of us as commissioners. Obviously, we try to manage that, and we've always indicated to Gambians, both at home and abroad, that it's important that we hear their opinions, but ultimately we have to face the reality that Constitution being what it is, it cannot incorporate every opinion, and I think that's important. But overall, what we have received from Gambians is that whilst they acknowledge that, they are satisfied with the fact that they've been given the opportunity to express their opinions. And for them, that is what matters most. I still recall this statement in country here when we were having our consultation, where a villager said to us, I really don't mind if you don't take my opinion into account, but the fact that you came to us, you sat with us at our bantaba and discussed and allowed us to express our opinion, that alone made me happy. So I think it's the opportunity, and there are realities to these exercises, and we are certainly going to do our very best to explain to Gambians, so whatever opinion hasn't made it into the Constitution, why it hasn't made it into the Constitution. We'll do our very best to do that. Whatever has made it into the Constitution, I will provide justification for that as well. But I think ultimately what we need to understand as a country and as a people is that with the best aim and with the best intentions in the world, we have to recognize that the Constitution will embody provisions that may not be to the liking of everybody. And that's just natural. All right, that's just natural. But I think ultimately we need to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is what is in the best interest of the country. And ultimately the question we need to ask ourselves, whatever is contained in the Constitution, does it represent an interest that is not of value to this country? If it is of value, then I think we need to understand that. That's why I made it very clear in my statement, and Mr. John made reference to it earlier. This is really not about me. It's about us. It's about our country. And that means that we have to put aside personal interests. Because the moment we harp on our personal interests, then this process is not going to go anywhere beyond where we are today. So it's important that we recognize this. And we are very much satisfied and certainly pleased with the approach we've seen during the public consultations, where people recognize and said it, that they will express their personal opinions, but they recognize their opinions may not make it into the Constitution. But so long as one makes it into the Constitution, it's for the greater good of this country. They are happy with it. And I think that's the kind of approach we all need to take. We all can't insist on having our own positions as expressed during the consultation, expressed in that form or its other shape in the new Constitution. But we are taking everything into account, and that is the most important for us.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think we have to close the question. Okay.
Many governments have expressed dissatisfaction about the National Assembly, where MPs continue, or the majority party continue to endorse everything the executive put on the table. So have you identified key areas to ensure that the country's law-making body will play fully its oversight role?
Well, we cannot, as a Constitutional Review Commission, determine the processes and procedures that function within Parliament. I think what we can do is to provide the necessary legal framework. that will enable the proper exercise of powers and the proper performance of functions within that setting. And we've had a very, very useful and very helpful dialogue with members of our National Assembly, where everybody recognized that ultimately we are dealing with a constitution that is designed to make things better for this country. That means, and they've emphasized it, that means ensuring that that level of separation of powers is properly identified and written in the new constitution. If there are any current constraints, obviously those will be looked at, but ultimately we do need to recognize that, and I believe I've said this before, the constitution, you may describe it as a mere piece of document. Somebody has to breathe life into that document. That means that the people who have responsibility for the enforcement or execution or implementation of that document have to perform their roles in a very responsible and effective and efficient manner. Unless that happens, it's not going to work. And one of the things Gambians have been telling us, and this goes outside of the National Assembly even, is that they want strong institutions that will ensure that the democratic process in this country is not about lip service. It's about something that is real, something that needs to be given life to. So it is important that we take all of these factors into account. And we can only do so much in the Constitution to make sure that we create the relevant, strong institutions that are transparent and that are responsible or are going to be responsible enough, but also a mechanism that ensures that you can't get there and think that because of all of these protections, you can misbehave and nothing's going to happen to you. There has to be these checks and balances. We have to contain and control our own way of behavior, recognizing that the offices we occupy are public offices on behalf of the people. So that these are all important elements. And some element of civic education is also important. And when we talk about civic education in this country, we normally tend to talk about those who are not educated or less educated. Frankly speaking, if you ask me, I will tell you that educated people also need civic education. So I think it is important that we see it as a collective rather than cherry picking, what applies to who and so on.
Review commissions, fellow commissioners, ladies and gentlemen of the press, Mr. Job, the secretary to the commission, members of the commission. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the statement that you delivered in this briefing. I believe the chair has given you a summary of what we have been doing for the past months. And from the question and answers that came out, it is very clear that everybody is impatient now, and everybody wants the Constitution to be ready and to see the copy of the Constitution. I believe we will not be pardoned if we extend our time, and we are not ready to ask for an extension, as a result of which we have decided to work every day of the week, including Sundays, from morning to late at night, in order to make sure that we stick to the time given to us by the statute. Having said that, Mr. Chair, when we are going to embark on the other consultation after the first draft is out, we will be needing you again as partners to partner with us as we go around the country and to disseminate or explain the provisions of the Constitution. I'm made to understand, Mr. Chair, that the High Commissioner in England also stayed at the meeting that was held in the United Kingdom from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., and we acknowledge that fact for the press. So, gentlemen of the press, thank you very much. We hope to be in touch with you very soon when the first draft is ready. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair, for that short statement. This brings us to the end of this press conference. And on behalf of my bosses, Justice Jordan Suleiman Jallo, I thank the media for always responding to our calls. We were very surprised today. The media was here an hour before the press conference. That shows your commitment to this review process, and we hope this relationship will grow from strength to strength. And feel free, if you have any questions with regard to the ongoing review process, our doors are open. We have a communication department that is willing to give you answers to your questions. On that note, I thank you once again for responding to our invitation.